So here's our final checklist to make sure that you can stand by what you sell. Make sure you check your PIC with the Department of Natural Resources and Environment, set up your MyMLA account, register your dairy license number with LPA, set up and maintain your LPA account, which you'd need to do first. Complete your LPA declaration every 3 years to ensure that your LPA account stays open, BDs, and renew that accreditation, when it's required, so you will be notified, and stay prepared for an audit by keeping all your record keeping up to date. Ensure that your NBDs are clear, complete and correct, or I really encourage you to use the ENBDs as an alternative. Ensure that your cattle are tagged appropriately according to the legislation. Set up and maintain your Nlis account. Record all your livestock movements onto and off your PIC. You are responsible for all movements on if they're coming from another property. And regularly check all transfers to make sure completed correctly with the correct information, the correct number of head, and keep your accurate farm records. So the next steps, we are looking to host a PIC reconciliation webinar. And I guess to participate in this webinar, we just want to make sure that you come prepared. You'll need to have an Nlis account. We would like you to run an active devices on PIC report and to have run a summary report of livestock transferred onto and off your PIC. So if we, once we sort of get further down the track and we have this lined up, we will send some pre-webinar work to do so that when you come to the webinar, you are totally prepared for that. Now, I think Hayley might have another poll to finish off the presentation. So I'll hand back to you, Hayley.
Thanks, Jo. So we just have one more poll question for you, and this one is around the topics that you guys would be interested in learning more about in a training session or a webinar session like this. So I'll just put that one up for you. You can select multiple of these answers here. And if you have any other ideas that you think you would like to know more about, if you could please provide them in the post-webinar survey link, which I just sent in the chat function there for you to fill out, that would be great. So I'll just give you guys a couple of seconds to select some answers here, just to give us a bit of feedback so we can help you all out. Great, I'll hand it back over to you, Jo.
Thanks very much, Hayley. Now that I've only got a couple more slides to go. I think we might be nearly at the end, and we have. We did think we were going to have a bit of extra time, but we've gone nearly right down to the wire. So thanks for everyone who's stayed right through to the webinar. I'm just up on the screen now. We've got some contact details information for you, and I'll just leave the slide there for a few minutes so that you, if you need to write those that information down, but we will be sending out a post with links to all of the information, and we'll also be assessing what kind of follow-up training that you would like to participate in. So as I have mentioned, there is a lot of information available. If both on the LPA website and the Nlis, but most of the information is actually on the ISC website. We do send out a monthly newsletter called Integrity Matters that you should have received in your inbox just on Tuesday, and we have a range of digital channels that we also push out information through. So if you're not following us yet on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, I encourage you to do so, because we often post out sort of relevant and timely information on those channels. Just the disclaimer from MLA, and thank you. So if I think we've got 1 minute to go, but if you do have a question, please pop it in the Q&A. I'm happy to stay on the line and answer any more questions if anything comes into the Q&A. And I just do, he's just reminded me to clarify that dairy farmers are exempt from random audits. So they're those randomized audits that they sort of virtually draw in terms of who's going to be audited, but you are not exempt from targeted LPA audits, which are audits that are generated by some kind of non-compliance, which is either identified through our systems, like often, and mostly it's identified through the Nlis system, or it could be identified from another regulatory authority and brought to our attention, and therefore we don't do it. AusMeet, our contracted auditing body, would complete that audit.
So just a quick one,
yeah.
There was a question that is in the answered section just from Cheryl there. Do we need to put the NBD number in each time we do a transfer on the Nlis database? Could you clarify that one for us?
Yes, so we definitely do. You definitely do. As part of LP, you have agreed that you will do that. So when you complete an Nlis transfer, one of the fields that you enter, that you're required to enter information, is what is the NVD number for this transfer, and you do need to put the National Vendor Declaration number in that. And it is a requirement that every time you do an Nlis transfer, and that is what an auditor is looking for when they come to audit Nlis, that they want to see that the transfer has been done on the database and there's an accompanying National Vendor Declaration for that transfer. Now, you only need to do that when animals are moving between two separate PICs. So if they're going from, properties that are amalgamated that have the same PIC, then obviously whatever the requirements in Tasmania are for stock movements, if you need to do a weigh bill, you can still use your NVD, but you're not moving between PICs. But any movement between PICs to separate PIC numbers must have an NVD completed for that. So they're going from this PIC that's printed on the NVD to a different PIC, and then that transferred in the database referencing the vendor declaration. It's just how we keep track of all the animal food safety information linked to the trend. That's why it's really important that we do that.
Great. Well, thank you, Jo, Andrea and Jim, for that deep dive into the elements of Australia's red meat integrity system for dairy producers. Just a last call. I know we're over time, but if you do have any pressing questions, it's a great time to ask them while we have everybody on the call, and these guys will hang around just to answer these for you. Just a reminder, in the chat button, we have sent through a survey link for this webinar. If you could please fill that one out to provide some feedback on the session and any other topics you would like DairyTas and Dairy Australia to cover, that would be great. And as mentioned earlier, we will provide access to the recording and the resources we've mentioned and the contact details that we've shown after this webinar. We'll send those through to you. So that's all we do have for you guys today. We'd like to say a huge thank you for you all for joining us. Thank you to Jo from ISC, Andrea, Mazzino and Jim from the Department of Natural Resources and Environment Tasmania, and Jackie from DairyTas. If there's no other questions, I'll wrap it up and say thanks everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.